Yo guys, what's going on? It's Sibs Gaming and welcome back to another episode of Character Class Guides. This is the series where we pick a character and create 3 unique class setups in order to give you guys the edge over your opponents as well as a little bit of variety with this game. And today we will be covering 3 epic class setups for none other than Rose. Now, I'm gonna be honest guys, I do not like Rose. As a matter of fact, Rose is probably my least favorite and least played character in Battle for Neighborville. There's just something about that homing attack, that slow, painful homing attack that I cannot stand. So today was a little bit of a personal challenge for myself. I'm going to try and create class setups that make Rose playable for me. And if it's playable for me, then it should definitely be playable for all of you guys. And a few housekeeping things before we begin. First off, yes, there will be a part 2 to the Death of Battle for Neighborville video I put out earlier. This one's got a lot of support, so I will definitely be continuing it with the promised part 2. Also, SpongeBob still exists, so I will be filming more episodes of SpongeBob. Expect to see them back on the channel soon as well. And you guys voted it in. The 3,000 subscriber special will indeed be a Battle for Neighborville parody song music video. So stick around through the rest of this video. I will be giving a small hint as to what that song could possibly be. Otherwise, guys, grab your lunch here, sit back, relax, because you're watching Psycho Sibs Gaming. Alright guys, so moving on to our first class setup of the day, we are going to nickname this one the Prickle Princess. So this class guide is going to center around the Thorn Apart legendary upgrade, which grants you a brand new attack that you charge by using your special abilities. To accompany this, we will be using Refreshing Revive, which will refresh our special abilities faster, and Super Savior to help us get easier revives off. Well, so much for saving the best for last, because this class setup was by far my favorite out of all 3 I'm about to show you. And that's simply because I personally like the Thorn Apart upgrade quite a lot. And by playing with this Thorn Apart centric playstyle, it really forces you to use a lot of your abilities which you may not have been using quite as often if you hadn't been running this. Because the truth is, you gotta use those abilities to charge the Thorn Apart. And in Battle for Neighborville, I often find myself relying far too much on the primary weapons, and I miss out on using the abilities to, well, the best of my ability. And one of the best strategies is to just charge your Thorn Apart up to full capacity, and then just run around and play normally while having that charged up. If you get into a sticky situation, let's say a Super Brains with the Brainium Basher comes flying at you, then go ahead and launch all 5 of those Thorns right at him for 125 damage. It can be a really good backup plan if you don't have Arcane Enigma charged, because Arcane Enigma is also a really good backup plan. So overall, I'd say Rose has a lot of survivability with this class. But don't worry, if you don't have the legendary upgrade, these next 2 class setups are right up your alley. Let's move on to class setup number 2. So the next class setup, I am going to give the nickname of the Speedy Bud. This class setup revolves around mobility, so as far as upgrades go, we are going to slot Speedy, which allows us to move faster, except when sprinting. We're also going to put on Escape, which allows us to move faster in the air. And then because we're moving around so much, we're going to tack on Fissile Missile, which makes your magic Fissile attack move faster. That's your primary attack. So this class setup actually plays pretty different than the first one. With the first one, you had to pretty much utilize all of your abilities as much as possible in order to charge your Thorn Apart, whereas this one, you really don't have to use any abilities, and this is just straight run and gun. So it's nice to have the extra bit of speed, and it is extremely nice that your Thistles move faster, allows them to connect much more often on characters who are constantly sprinting and jumping, because that's the meta of the game. And my other comments on this class setup: although we are boosting her speed on the ground and in air, I definitely think it could be a little more speedy. If I'm going to go full speed, I expect it to be pretty quick. Otherwise, this is not a bad class up at all, especially if you want to focus more on the primary attack and you are the type of person who does jump around and move quite often. Also, one pro tip: use the Goatify on those annoying Super Brains using the Brainium Basher. it actually takes him out pretty effectively. And for our third and final class setup, it is nicknamed the Big Schlep. The two upgrades you're going to want for this are the Time Snare, which will slow your enemies down by landing attacks on them, and finally Locked and Loaded, which increases the homing range of the Magic Thistle while you're aiming. So essentially, we're going to be putting people to sleep from long range. That is essentially the goal of this class setup. So going out and actually trying this in a real live multiplayer match, I found that first off, I was definitely landing more shots because of the increased homing range, so that's good. And I also did see the Time Snare activating, so in theory, this should be a pretty decent class setup, and it should be a lot of fun to play with, especially from a mid to long range. I guess you could say that the last class setup was more of an aggressive rush class, very close range, very jumpy, floaty stuff, and this one's a little more chill, hang back, fire on people with your homing. Also note that I said this Time Snare class setup would, in theory, be good, because I got put into a lobby of entirely bots when I played this. That's right, it was just me and all bots. And as a matter of fact, you want to know what inspired my I Hate Bots video? This was the game that really pushed me over the edge. But I don't think that these bots really are affected by Time Snare at all. Like, the animation shows up, but they were not affected as far as they had no trouble gunning me down at every opportunity. It didn't matter if they had Time Snare on them or not. They were not slowed down. They did not have any difficulties turning and 180ing me with whatever their weapon is. So, yeah, not sure if this applies to bots, which means that this class may be obsolete if you get a lot of bots, like for some reason I do. Anyways, guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found these Rose classes useful. Go ahead, try some up for yourself, especially if you're the type of person who does not play Rose that much like I am. Anyways, guys, see you next time. Game on, gamers. Bye. What do you mean I didn't give you a hint for the song? You've been getting a hint this entire video. This entire video.